its beginnings until today? Can dancing be a spiritual path to God? Can believers pray with dancing? Do believers experience the presence of God while dancing? And can dance be an integral part of worship and communication with God? Or is it the other way around? Are Christians seduced by the devil through dancing? Is dancing a sin? Is dancing sinful? When you look at the books on religious studies and you watch up, if the topic of dance is there, maybe you have done that. Well, what is the result? Almost nothing. So far, European religious studies are shaped by this European Christian understanding of religion, which does not associate dance with religion. I propose to use the metaphor of third space for this conference. So, Homi Baba says, the third space is not a space, a material space, it's a discursive space, it's a space of thinking. So the idea or the question is if dance is a third space for interreligious or multi-religious encounters. Dance shows that knowledge is in motion, and that dance can open up a third space for knowledge and cognition. That means that dance maybe is an instrument of the body to get to know the world.
These new theories also try to include bodily knowledge in our reflections on the construction of knowledge. And now I will also include music in my reflections on dance. And I will discuss how the interplay between music and dance can be theorized from a critical perspective as developed in dance studies. Since the actual impulse for the movement of the musician originates from the sound imagination combined with an embodied knowledge how to produce this sound, the musicians become a species of dancers of their own. Especially since postmodern aesthetics, there was a break between music and dance, and you have two components which are separated, but when you view them in your brain, in your body, you will pick them together and develop something new. And this is called emergence effect, Emergenz effect in German. So kinetic listening is being focused on the rhythm, and kinesthetic listening is also timbre, dynamics, so the many parameters of music. So you have this music in motion, dancing while listening. You have music to motion, which means you see the movements and you hear, but you yourself are still. And you have music as motion, which means you imagine motion while listening to music.
Project, Nietzsche's project, as he describes it, is what he calls a revaluation of values. Dance for him, throughout his work, is the test of whether or not a value or a book or a person or an idea is hostile to life. So for Nietzsche, Christians are hostile to life when they blame their senses and their desires as evil. Why, he asks, are people so eager and so willing to believe that they can distance themselves from their bodily selves and their bodily desires? Insofar as these values are hostile to life, they're born of feelings of frustration that turn into resentment, that's a willingness to blame others, that then encourages and guides them to sort of value a kind of weakness and passivity that denies them their sensory experience. All right, so why and how is dance going to offer some kind of response to this? What did Nietzsche mean by dance? Yet the greatest influence on his understanding of dance came from Greek tragedy. So tragedy in this way then, by putting us in touch, by helping us know that we ourselves in every movement we are participating in the creation of the world, that gives us a capacity to say yes to life. So for Nietzsche, it's only when humans have the benefit of a sensory education that wakes them up to their kinetic creativity that they have the internal resources to create values that remain faithful to the earth. There can be no dance without religion, and there can be no religion without dance.
Dance is feminine. Dance was not always like that, nor the gender role of women. Women are said to be more natural, emotional, and sensitive than men. Women are seen as humans with a sex. Men are just human. In terms of the gender theory, Wigman fostered a concept of natural femininity. In her eyes, dance is a women's profession because dance corresponds with the essence of women. The credo of modern dance is everybody is a dancer. Modern dance is open to individual forms of dances and improvisation. The essence is the individual experience. I asked, why is there no dance in my church? There is respect and room for church music, not for church dance. Spirituality is not so welcome. It is too freestyle, too esoteric, too mystical, or too emotional. And soon I discovered there is dance in church, there are art spaces. The movement is up to now very much supported by women. There are meditative circle dances with simple patterns. There are prayers made of gestures. Liturgy is built up of body movements which transport experience that is conditioned by sociological, cultural, psychological, and physiological aspects. Women leading dances in worship contribute to a long-standing masculine domain. Dancing men in church disturb productively the image of dance as a feminine art. One explains his attraction for tango. When I saw tango for the first time, I thought I wished my relationship with God to be like this.
And stop wherever you are. Now be very aware of the space. Where are you in the space? Where are you in relationship to the other people? How is your breathing? How is your position? Yes. Now the other person leads.
Without the body, it is impossible to experience anything at all. Thomas, following several theories, talk about 6 type models of the body. The individual, the social, the political, the world, the consumerist, and the medical bodies. We are constantly bombarded by advertisements and the like that tell us how to achieve the ideal or perfect body, consequently rejecting all sorts of imperfections such as age, illness, disability. Bechet suggests thinking and envisioning creation as inclusive of the realities of pain, exhaustion, disability, and death. For theology, the body is the in-betweenness of the divine-human relationality. Unfortunately, Christianity is losing this vision. For many centuries, the body has been depicted as sinful and a lower level of truth intuition. Dance is important because it takes the body at its extreme sensual and fleshy reality. God is the greatest dancer, and we are the partners of this astonishing dance. As with the body and the flesh, we are in danger of losing dance as a relevant theological, artistic, and liturgical expression, and so exclude dancing from the church.
We can, however, wonder if the way the church fathers describe the dance of Herodias' daughter is influenced by the actual practices of their time or the context of those performances. For wherever the dancing is, there is the devil. Furthermore, not all Christian writers use this evil figure. The condemnation of dance is various. For some authors, like Origen, two types of dancing must be opposed: a bad one, but also a holy one, which could fit a spiritual devotion. Indeed, he uses the dancing of Herodias' daughter as a metaphorical and negative image in his controversy against the Arians. This figurative use of the dance of Herodias' daughter seems therefore to be influenced by the actual theatrical performance of the time of Athanasius. Ambrose puts in contrast religio and saltatio in Latin, which condemns dance as a practice opposite to religious one. The devil is thus linked to whatever is immoral and licentious, and not only dance. The figure of the devil is used in this homily to utterly underline the spiritual danger of dance. Immorality can separate Christians from God. The dance of Herodias' daughter is indeed negative because it leads to the Baptist death, but other biblical texts present positive dances.
As we will see, most dances of Mary are connected either with the unique virginity of the Mother of God or with Mary's exemplary virginity to be imitated by Christians. In the Evangelium, 3-year-old Mary is put on the third step of the altar. The Lord God put grace on her and she danced down on her feet. In 384, Hieronymus, wrote an advice to Eustochium, a Roman aristocratic teenager who had decided to live as a virgin. What a beautiful day when Mary, the Mother of God, will come to receive you, accompanied by groups of dancing virgins. Mary leading the heavenly dance of virgins, this constellation dominates Western medieval Christian imagination. Sometimes she shares the role of leader with God, or is the very first person that an archangel or Jesus Christ lead into choral dance. The imagination of Mary dancing a duet with Jesus is rare. But in early modern times, Mary comes also to be imagined and even produced as a dancer of solos and duets, not restricted to the realm of heaven. As for art, some modern authors from the 20th century see Mary dancing on early modern paintings and in Baroque and Rococo statues of the Immaculata. Indeed, the most prominent medium used after 1945 for the idea of a dancing Mary is dance.
The medieval church is still characterized as an institution that is adverse to dancing, although a number of studies in recent years have raised considerable objections to this one-sided view. The dances in the churches were often misinterpreted as bizarre rituals of a popular counterculture or as a dance revolution. In my opinion, the councils did not decree the complete interdiction of dancing, but imposed rather selective regulations. Besides the three main criticisms, the Feast of Fruits, profane dancing in the church, and the participation of clerics in secular dances outside the church, there was a legitimate field, or at least a twilight zone, for the dances of clergymen in the church. Much more frequent are, as you can see here, representations of dancing angels, the dancing David, and Christ as a dancer. The dance of Auxerre, called the Pilote, which I'm going to present you now, is not a unique example, but part of a broader religious dance culture in France. So while the canons danced a circle through or around the maze, while singing the Easter hymn, Victime Paschalis Laudis, the dean performed a different dance in the center of the maze and threw a big ball to the canons. Most of the liturgists of the 12th and 13th century record on dances, ball games, or a mixture of dances and ball games performed by clerics. The link between dancing and religion persisted, albeit under different circumstances, in the early modern period. It was not until the era of enlightenment that a separation of both fields happened. The famous quote of Friedrich Nietzsche, "I would only believe in a God that knows to dance," would have been a much less of a provocation in the late Middle Ages than in the 19th century.
Und dort habe ich das erlebt, oh, ich kann auch türkisch vortanzen, zusammen tanzen wir und russisch und andere Nationalitäten, andere Religionen, wir sind anders, aber wir können zusammen tanzen.
Das heißt jetzt, also im Arbeitsleben so männlich so funktioniert gut, aber dann muss man auch ein bisschen runterkommen in eigene naturelle Rolle. Tanz habe ich das wieder zurück. Ich kann jetzt gleichzeitig Hose tragen und auch hoch.
Wenn ich das wiedergeben kann, was mir die Musik gibt und ich das mit der Bewegung wiedergeben kann, das ist für mich einfach Abtauchen in eine ganz andere Welt.
Aber bei diesem Tanz, es geht nicht gefällig. Ja, eine Stunde im Monat bin ich mit mir. Seele und Körper zusammen bewegen sich.
Sufismus ist eine bestimmte Richtung innerhalb des Islam. Er wollte das Herz mit einbeziehen und hat die erste Sufi-Schule gegründet. Sie pflegen alle eine bestimmte Art des Zikr. Es geht um so einen Kreis, wenn das 300 Leute machen, dann ist schon ein Bauer da, das kann man sich vorstellen. Der Tretan selbst ist nämlich auch ein Zikr, also eine Art der Erinnerung. Bei jeder einzelnen Umdrehung sagt der Derwisch leise Allah. Gegründet wurde das Ganze von Hazrat Mevlana Rumi, allerdings bei ihm ein freies Drehen um die linke Seite, um das eigene Herz, wie gesagt.
Dance assumed a great importance for the adherents of the movement. This phenomenon has a lot to do with the founder of Hasidism, Israel ben Eliezer Baal Shem Tov. It goes without saying that dancing at personal celebrations such as weddings and births was just as natural as in any other culture. And this is something which is very typical for a Jewish tradition. There are room dancing, old men, not the young ones. God is everywhere. Yeah? If I'm doing something unaware of God's presence, it is not avodah. It is no worship. If I'm doing it with consciousness, with awareness of the presence of God, then it is avodah, service. Everything is interconnected. I always call it the Kabbalistic equatrophology. Means, if you do something really evil as a person, God himself is influenced. Now add the element of the dance. The dance expresses in terms of bodily movement what the words and music express in their terms. Everything works in harmony. So here you have a perfect simile for the Kabbalistic founding theory of the unity of everything. The structure of God corresponding to the structure of the world, the structure of humans. And it seems as if Nachman is thinking that the music, with her special power, could bring about this harmony, let's say, bottom up.
What is the difference between you and God? You are a human being, God is God. So therefore God has got four arms. You see, first is the drum, okay? The drum of creation. Second is the hand, the file of destruction, left upper arm. And the right upper arm is the hand of protection. It was practiced in temples. Till the British came and the British said this is ugly. This was a duty of a priest dancing in front of the gods and goddesses. God, I'm in front of you. Don't I look as the most beautiful, most desirable woman? So I decorate myself. It's transcending the physical sexuality. He is the only man. He is the only God. All the others, they look like men, but they are not men in Indian terms. The Ganesha, for example, Ganesha. These are typical for Hindus. But the gestures you can take it. Everything is taken from the traditional Indian Hindu classical dance style, but the content is biblical.
are necessary in the trance practices. In the rituals, spiritual entities are called and being incorporated by specially trained personal mediums. The knowledge of the divine is born out of an inner body knowledge of the dancers when they fall in trance. The trance is perceived as a double perception in which the personal medium is aware of itself and feels overlaid by the force. I would like to emphasize that in my research, not only Brazilians practice their religion in a new cultural context and thereby open up new spiritual and social spaces within Central European societies, but that these are also shared by European religious actors and thus constitute a post-migrant society as an interweaving of migration experience, history and incorporation of knowledge. Thus, a theology of dance must be seen in this complex social context. Since there is no tradition in sacred dance in Germany, as noticed these days at this conference, and it is no longer possible to continue with old traditions in German-speaking Europe because of the historical break in civilization of the Nazi regime, without recalling the repressed political context, the only way to get back into communication with the spiritual world for the religious actors of my case study in Berlin is through another cultural path.